increase in the number of babies born being named Dunstan Gerbert Raphael. I mean, that's a lot of names. I can just imagine what his child must have been like to rattle off all of those names and to spell them nonetheless. Also trending in the news this week is the death of a mother and her 2 children. That is so sad. I mean, you often hear people say that they would do anything for their children, but to perish with them at such tender ages, under the age of 10, they have their whole lives ahead of them. That is really sad. And again, the management and staff of DBS would like to offer our deepest and profound sympathies to the family who perished in that morning blaze. Now, on to politics. St. Lucia, last week, as my guest, I had Honorable Guy Joseph, and he gave us his version, or his party's version, of why the opposition, the United Workers' Party, did not debate in the House. And to a certain extent, I agree with them. What are you debating? You have a whole bunch of numbers presented by the Prime Minister, and nothing else of substance. The Prime Minister said in his presentation that we would get some further elucidation from the Minister of Tourism. He made mention of the Minister of Infrastructure. We heard a statement from the Minister of Commerce, and he made mention of other ministers. The Minister of Agriculture, I believe, was one of those that we were expecting to hear some sort of further clarification as to their portion of the debate of estimates, and we didn't hear that. And a lot of people have been saying that the opposition was wrong, that they should have debated, and I'm asking myself, have we ever heard of an opposition's budget? I couldn't find it anywhere and I searched the net, I googled, I did so many things, and I couldn't find anywhere it says anything about an opposition's budget. But we do know that the government has a budget, which they now have to present to us. Forget the opposition, because in 1997, remember, we had a 16-1. So let's just imagine that lone opposition member was ill on the day that budget was convened, Parliament was convened. Would the government then not have presented a budget? Would the Prime Minister simply have given his statement, and the Speaker of the House would have posed the question, and all members would have sat back in their chairs saying, you know what, we are members of Cabinet and we have already discussed this, and there is no further information that we could possibly give to the people of St. Lucia who elected us? What would we have said then? Let us just imagine a situation such as in Grenada's, where there was no opposition. They got 16 not, I think it was, or 17 not, no opposition. Although, you know, some will argue that they appointed somebody because there must always be opposition. But what if that member was ill and so there's no physical representation in the House? Would the government not have presented its budget? As I said earlier, there's no such thing as an opposition's budget, and it is incumbent upon the government to further clarify what it is that is contained within the budget. And to make matters worse, as soon as budget was, the Parliament was concluded, they take to the airwaves. And this is what our Prime Minister said. This is unprecedented, unfortunate, and disappointing. The government of St. Lucia will not accept any responsibility for the failure of the opposition to manage its affairs in the House of Assembly. Unquote. That is what our Prime Minister said. He is not going to take responsibility for the opposition, the management of the opposition of its affairs in the House, in Parliament. But who takes responsibility for the citizens? Who explains to me, my 11-year-old niece, the man on the Bexar bus stop, the Tinegwes Labowi, and those of us who are who are not as discerning, rather? Who explains to them and to us, all of us, whether we voted for the United Workers' Party or the St. Lucia Labour Party? Who explains to us what is contained within all those numbers that were bandied about, and who will explain it? If the opposition, for whatever reason, decides enough is enough, I am not going to debate, or I am going to wait to get further clarification from the government as to what the numbers contained within the Prime Minister's speech, what they mean, how I can juxtapose it against what actually happens or obtains within the economy today. It is indeed sad. And then, to make matters worse, we have the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Minister for Infrastructure, Port Services and Transport, and the Deputy Prime Minister nonetheless, adding that the real losers are the people who voted for the opposition. Yes, St. Lucia, you heard me right. That is, the man should, in case heaven forbid anything happens to our Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister will say that the real losers are the people who voted for the opposition. Does that mean the government cannot differentiate itself from the political party, the St. Lucia Labour Party? Does that mean the government therefore only represents the interests of the people who voted for them? Is that what it's saying, St. Lucia? Do we even care that these are the words coming out of the mouth of the sitting Deputy Prime Minister of St. Lucia, who is supposed to be representing the interests of all St. Lucians, regardless of color, regardless of creed? And then our Prime Minister would have the gall to say that no one will be left behind. Who is the no one that he's talking about? No one will be left behind. Whom exactly is he referring to when he says no one will be left behind? I find that a very curious statement, considering that his Deputy Prime Minister would then say that the real losers are the opposition, the people who voted for the opposition. To my mind, Parliament should be prorogued, because it says to me that the government does not represent all of the people. It only represents the 52% of the people of St. Lucia who voted for them in the last elections. Very sad state of affairs, St. Lucia. Very, very sad state. And then we have the statement made by Honorable Emma Hippolyte as it relates to the Lambert saga. And tonight we don't have too much time to go into all of that. But suffice it to say, I will say this on the matter. Why was that statement read in Parliament? Why, after so many weeks of begging and waiting earnestly to hear from the minister, why would she choose to read a statement in Parliament? Is it because she knows that she has immunity in Parliament and that nobody can take her apart? And why was it read as a statement? Is it because she knew that should the opposition debate in the House, that they cannot debate the statement? It was just a statement after all. But more on this next week. Right now, we will take a break, and when we come back, we'll introduce you to our guests. Stay tuned. Welcome back to News Makerlive. And tonight, my guests need absolutely no introduction. They've been making headline news for weeks on end. And even when we get a little reprieve, somebody somehow manages to put them smack dab in the middle of the news. And as you know, it's News Makerlive, so we are right on the ball, and we are going to get all the scoops that we can get, as much of the scoop as possible. You would have heard on Friday, being May Day, of the fiasco, or should I say debacle, or should I say yet another scandal rocking the CSA. And it depends on who you look at. I mean, who you question. If you ask persons like Marcia Clark, I'm certainly sure she'll say, oh, yeah, these people need to go, and they're rubbish, and they poo-pooing the people. If you speak to the Oliver Lawrences, this is what you're going to hear. And yet when you hear other people calling into the radio stations and the talk shows, they will tell you, lay off Mary Isaac. She's doing a fantastic job. She, by her lonesome, staved off, a 5% cut in wages for civil servants. So you have the good, you have the bad, and for some of us, you have the indifferent. With no further ado, let us turn our attention to our guests, Miss Mary Isaac and Mr. Wilfred Pierre. Just for our viewers at home, just state your designations currently as they stand today.
Okay, I'm Mary Isaac. Currently, I am the Acting General Secretary of CSA.
And Wilfred Pierre, the current Acting President of the St. Lucia Civil Service Association.
Okay, now you're both acting, but you both have current positions within the CSA. So you're Acting General Secretary, but you're also the president.
Elected president.
Elected first vice president.
Explain to the people what that means, and how does that, is there some sort of conflict of interest there with you being president-elect and also acting general secretary? I didn't know that these positions could happen. So explain how that happens in the CSA.
Okay. Well, the thing is, because Mr. DeMarc is no longer with us, his contract came to an end, and he had only requested a 1-year renewal last year. It came to an end, and then we have that vacancy existing right now. Now, we have had situations at CSA where former presidents acted in the absence, when the General Secretary went on leave. Okay? So this is a similar thing that is happening right now.
Can you recall any, just off the top of your head, any president who acted as General Secretary? Because I don't think, I myself have never heard, it just might be my youth, I have never heard of it, or maybe I just haven't been paying attention to enough to the union situation, so I don't know, I will admit ignorance on that point.
Well, we had Joseph Dossery, who did a small stint when DeMarc went on leave one time, and also Mr. Francis Raphael, who also did a stint acting as president, acting as General Secretary.
But some would argue that these were short stints. They were. The General Secretary went on vacation for what length of time? A month?
Well, he usually goes for about 3 months.
For 3 months. Yeah. Okay, so that's a short-term situation that you can see a clear end to. But Mr. DeMarc has now retired or resigned, or his contract came to an end, right? So his contract came to an end, so he's no longer there. What? And how long has that been?
Well, he finished in March. His contract came to an end
in March this year. Okay, so it's just about a month, a little over a month, right? 6 weeks thereabouts.
We have advertised the vacancy, although we do not have to, because the Constitution gives us the power to appoint. Gives the executive, the responsibility to appoint the General Secretary.
And the executive has decided not to go that route of appointing.
Well, we have advertised the post internally through our own circulars, and we've sent it. That means we've sent it to all our shop stewards and so on and so forth, the branch reps and so on. Well, I'm not sure about branch rep because that doesn't exist. And we have advertised it internally, and we are looking at putting a panel together to decide on to interview the applicants, then we are going to fill the vacancy.
But why you now, Mary? I've heard time and time again that you're a dictator, that you're stubborn, you're headstrong, and whatever you say go. Why did you not exercise or encourage your executive to exercise their right to appoint a general secretary? After all, you could appoint somebody who is favorable to you, to the executive, and it'll be
we like transparency, okay? And because of all the kaka and the chicken and the ruru, because I think last year we also had some ruru when we had to renew Mr. Dimac's contract, and I want to leave him out of that. But anyway, I'm saying that because of all the confusion and everything that some people like to create with CSA, we try as much as possible to be as transparent as we can, and this is why we advertise the posts, at least internally, so our other members who feel that they qualify to apply for this position, they were given the opportunity.
So it's a paid position.
It is a paid position.
And so how does that work? It being a paid position and being a civil servant. Well, not you because you're retired, but say a member. How does that work? Say, for instance, if I were currently working with the civil service and I wanted to apply for the position, how would that work?
Well, it's been done before where the person was seconded. Okay, you can write and ask for request secondment that the person is seconded or leave of absence. The person come, they do their stint because it's a contract position as well.
So you get paid, but when you're on secondment or you ask for leave of absence, your salary from government is frozen.
That's right.
Okay. So it's not a situation of you getting a double salary.
No. And the thing is, as president, I do not get a salary. It's not a salary. The board serves it's gratis. They get a stipend, but they do not get a salary. People on the board, right? So as general secretary, acting general secretary, I would only be getting the acting general secretary's salary because I hear people talking about this woman is getting so much money and blah 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 blah. Okay.
So is the acting general secretary's salary different from the general secretary's salary?
No,
it's the same. It's the same. It's the same.
All right. So
the conditions are the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've advertised and you're in the process of putting together a panel for interviews. Have you gotten many?
We only got 2 applications. We already had an old one sitting there. Somebody who had applied since last year, I think, before when Dimac went on leave or something like that. We have that one there as well. We are considering that one. And then there's myself who applied for the position, and there's Mr. Pierre who applied. And that was it.
So that's the 3 applicants before the board.
That's right.
Yourself, Mr. Pierre, and an old applicant who did not reapply. You just pulling out of your files.
Well, I don't want to call him an old applicant.
No, I don't mean old.
Remember.
So, Lucia, I am not calling the applicant old as in the number of years that he has lived or walked on this earth. I am simply referring to the fact that he applied last year, so the application is not a fresh one based on this current vacancy. It was an application from an old vacancy, from last year.
I'm glad you clarified that because another rule would start out of that again.
And we don't want that. We don't want that.
So these are the 3 that we have right now, and Laura, we will not be sitting on the panel who will be conducting.
Well, I heard that. I had heard that you guys are sitting on the panel and you'll be interviewing yourself. You will be screening the applicants.
Well, we can't screen ourselves.
You'll be screening. I thought that was hilarious, and I said, I must get Mary's view on that. I must interview him, if for nothing else, but to ask her and Mr. Pierre, how is it possible for you to be on this panel that is going to be screening applicants or interviewing applicants for the position of General Secretary?
You see, Laura, we have to try our best to educate the St. Lucian public instead of trying to confuse the people, okay? And I heard some people saying, this lady, she's getting so much. I retired on the 12th of December last year. And they couldn't wait to get me out of the public service because I'm seen as the troublesome person. I brought out the 5% and this woman. And I retired. I was reminded that I'm retiring on the 12th. On the 12th, everything was cut off. We have the government internet, right? I was cut off that internet on the 12th. I was cut off
just pause there. You were cut off 6 o'clock, 7 p.m.?
maybe midnight.
Oh, oh my goodness.
Because when I checked in the morning, that was
on the 13th.
Closed.
On the 13th, the morning of the 13th.
On the 12th. The morning of the 12th.
Wait. Are you saying by 6 a.m. on the 12th you had no internet?
Oh, yes.
Are you kidding me? And you're retiring on the same day?
Well, I couldn't access the government's, my internet, my email, my government email. I couldn't access that.
But you're still an employee until the 13th because you're retiring on the 12th.
Right. But not only that, I was supposed, before you retire, you go to all those cohort studies 1 year before, 2 years before. So they know exactly when. They send you letters telling you you'll be retiring on so and so. Therefore, you have to do this and do that. Okay? So I went through all of that. And then I retired on the 12th. I was reminded, I have my letter, everything. Then in January, when I checked for my what's happening, I'm not getting my gratuity, nothing. I was told, oh, there is a problem. We are not able to pay your gratuity for so and so reason and so and so so and so. We aired and blah 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 blah.
Although they ushered you through those doors, they pushed you through.
Right.
If you were supposed to be at work on the 12th, they would prefer you not to even show up.
Oh yes. Okay.
How does that work? How did you?
So my phone now, I had a government phone, and you have how many minutes and so on and so forth. That was cut off. And everything. So I was like, okay, well, But then I was expecting, by the same token, that my gratuity would be paid within the time that it's supposed to be paid. But to this day,
your gratuity hasn't been paid?
No, they cannot. They now found out that I was in a non-pensionable post. So I'm saying this so that these people out there who are saying I'm a public servant or this and that and this and that, they are so confused and they are so wrong. Because if I have to talk about all the things that happen in the public service, Laura,
are you saying that you feel victimized and marginalized by our government?
I do not know that I can feel victimized in my own country. I do not know. I do not know that I really acknowledge that word applies to me, because every time you try to victimize a person, sometimes the person end up gaining more out of you trying to victimize them. And I know that they victimize people in the public service and so on, but I don't see it as though I am being victimized. I don't have time to think about those things or to take on those things. But they do victimize people in the public service.
But that's sad.
Public service.
Would you say, and you've been in the public service for a long time?
17 years.
17 years.
Regrettably so, yes.
Oh, I don't think. Okay, well, I've never worked for the public service, so I can't say.
Well, I enjoy my time there.
You enjoyed your time?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
I enjoyed working in my ministry. I enjoyed working with the workers but no.
Would you say that this is something that is inherent throughout the public service, regardless of administration?
I don't know if I can say that. I think there's a time when the public service was a lot better than it is right now. When I came into the public service, I enjoyed my time in the public service. The public service was a lot better than it is right now. We had an increment system. You used to look forward to your appraisal, because if you get that good appraisal, after 3 good appraisals, you get rewarded. So you look forward to that. You work, and there were reward programs in the public service. You used to feel you were doing a service to the public, and you were proud of that. Public servants were regarded as people who carried a certain stature, and you were able to access certain facilities, loans, and the credit union, and so on and so forth.
I remember, and you're right, because I remember as a young lady, I was about to say young girl, but then that would just open up another can of worms. I tried to stay away from the girl and the boy situation. But as a young lady leaving school, I think after I left A-level, I was pushed by other civil servants to get into the civil service, because there's this security, right? And doors are open for you, and is that the same for you?
Yeah, I think I really had a very good experience in working in government, especially in the Ministry of Agriculture and in the Prime Minister's office. I mean, it was really wonderful for me. But a lot of things have changed now. I mean, at the time when I was at the Ministry of Agriculture, you actually could see the steps, the mobility, you can move up. So for example, when you actually become, let's say, a technical officer, you can move to a deputy permanent secretary, and you know the next move for you is a permanent secretary. But what has happened now is that you get persons from outside, they bring them in as permanent secretaries. So now you have a situation where you have a number of persons as deputy permanent secretaries. There's no mobility for them, and that is what a difference in when I was there.
I'm glad you bring this up, because to me it says that you trained. By the time you get to the position of deputy permanent secretary, you have been trained at taxpayers' expense to get to that position of permanent secretary. And when all of a sudden you put a glass ceiling for a person who have gone through all of that rigorous, I would imagine, training, and you get to there, and then there's this glass ceiling all of a sudden, and your head hits that ceiling, and there's no way up. I can imagine that would not be a very pleasant feeling, and that could lead to low morale.
And some of the people are well trained, you know, these well trained persons, and they just cannot move up. But you find persons come from outside and they put them as permanent secretaries. That is common.
How many positions of permanent secretary do you imagine in the last year have been filled by persons from the outside, do you think? Do you imagine?
I can think of 5 offhand.
Yeah, about 5.
From last year?
Yeah. And from year before.
Year before,
between the year before
and now, I can think of 5 offhand. And there are more. Just 5 offhand. You understand?
And that is at a time when we're saying that things are bad, 5% cut.
Yeah. The public service, the public wage bill is too high, and so on and so forth.
But would you imagine that the wage bill would have gone up just slightly if you promoted a permanent secretary and then pushed everybody up and then brought in somebody at an entry level as opposed to bringing in somebody at
that would cut in
the level of a permanent secretary?
It would make a difference.
It would make a difference, you think? You imagine?
Yeah, but sometimes, Mary, the person that comes in as permanent secretary comes at a higher in terms of emolument and things. So because
I would imagine because
you're on contract.
You're on contract.
Yes,
and you're coming out of
That's
the
correct.
private sector.
That's correct. Yeah, so that you find they're paid much higher.
The government have to dish out.
Yes. I would imagine that. And you said something earlier, Mary. You said something about your position being non-pensionable. What does that mean?
Well, when I came in, I was appointed into the post as a pensionable post, right? And now they are saying that it is a non-pensionable post.
But what does that mean for you?
It means I am not entitled to a government pension.
But she wasn't paying NIC.
But I was not paying NIC because at the time I was given a letter saying this is you are employed in a pensionable
I hope
post.
You still have that letter.
Yes. They have agreed that they've aired and they are trying to rectify the problem. But I'm saying that it is taking too long.
Are you
for people who were looking forward to me being out of the service, you would have thought that you had 17 years to figure that out, and by the time I'm ready to get out, everything is right there.
Are you therefore suggesting that maybe the government doesn't have the monies? Because we know maybe your pension would have been coming out of the 5% cut and you just foiled that. I mean, do you think?
You never know, Laura. Look at what's happening now. Because I know there are other people who are suffering a similar fate. You understand? And I'm not sure. I suspect it's an issue of no money, because I know other people, they tax their pension and they're not supposed to, and to refund them that tax is like 4 or 5 years before they can give them a refund. Right? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the public service.
We're due for a break. Tanisha. When we come back, we will have more with our guests, Mary Isaac and Mr. Wilfred Pierre, and we will talk a little bit more about this. You're getting a little spicy. What happened on Labor Day in that now infamous meeting? We'll be right back. Welcome back, St. Lucia, to News Makerlive. We've been chatting with our guests, Mary Isaac and Mr. Wilfred Pierre. And I think for me it has been very interesting and very enlightening, and I've been getting some information. But now the gloves are off. Mary, what happened on Friday?
Friday. Yeah. Okay, Friday was Labor Day. Normally what we do, what we have done Labor Days in the past is to have matches, and that stopped for a while now. People just laze about, they go to the beach and so on and so forth. So we decided this year, since Labor Day was a Friday, we decided that we are going to have our AGM, and the AGM now is due in the month of May. Right? So, and deliberately so, because when they were reviewing the Constitution, what we agreed was that since May Day falls in May, why don't we actually use that to have our AGM? Right? There was talk of that. It was not the sole reason why the AGM, they called for the AGM in May. But the Constitution says, you know, we ought to have the AGM in May unless the executive decide otherwise, right? So this year we said, as an executive, we decided May Day, this is what it is for. It is for trade unions to engage in whatever activities that has an impact on the workers, or, you know, that sort of thing. So we decided that May Day was ideal for our AGM, because that, of course, saves us from having to inform employers during an ordinary work week and so on and so forth that we need time, workers need time to come to the AGM. Saturday worshippers are able to worship freely because our AGM is on a Friday. Sunday worshippers have no issues with us because, of course, the AGM was on Friday, May Day, and it's a holiday. You see? So putting it on Friday served many different purposes. It saved us from having to put up with a lot of other issues that we usually have to put up with. Because usually, you know how employers will say, oh, they didn't get sufficient time, and today is not a day they can release the workers, and so on and so on. So we avoided all of that by putting this activity on May Day. And a number of our workers had no problem with that. It's just the same handful of people who create the problem.
Now, I constantly hear you talk about the same Is it really just a handful of people, or is it more like 60-40 split thereabout? That
it's about 15 people.
And how
10
many?
of them were at the meeting. And I know 4 of them who were not there, who consistently keep writing and sending emails and just creating havoc.
But that is 15 out of how many people?
3,000 plus.
So the CSA has 3,000 plus members.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
out of 3,000, 15, about approximately 15. Now my math is not so good, Sister Lucia. I'm not even going to attempt to give you a percentage.
About 15 people are at the forefront of this whole thing.
So
of course, they
5%,
impact on other people, so they might end up coming up with about 100, 200. Like you see, they had 126 at that meeting where they decided to come up with a petition to remove us and so on and so forth. Okay? And a lot of the people who were there had signed off on that petition with the impression that they were coming to a meeting to hear about negotiations and whatnot. They were not even aware that the petition they signed was really for a meeting to remove Mary Isaac. So when they started hearing that, it was like, what? You know? But, of course, they still had that number of people. So it is just a handful of people. But as you know,
about 5%,
Nelson Mandela changed the entire South Africa. It takes one person sometimes, you understand? But the other members are very, very aware of what these people are doing, and this is why sometimes we don't even need to come out and explain anything. They say to us, leave them.
So why do you imagine that they're so vocal and your supporters are not so vocal?
Generally, you find that trade union, the members who are members of CSA, they tend to leave it to the executive to take care of business. It's like, we elect you, we put you there, and therefore we trust that you are doing the right thing.
Similar to national government, right?
Right.
We
This is
elect
the
these
general-
people and we expect them to take care of business,
Right,
and we never
right.
turn around until there's a huge crisis and we're like, whoa, scrambling to figure out what's happening.
And they are not very happy with what is happening. And it's not that they're not happy with us, because as you can see, we had that meeting and they came out, you know, and supported and said, we want you all to continue the work that you are doing. Okay, so it's not the general membership that is pushing this. So what happened last Friday was that these very same people, before the meeting, once we announced that the meeting was on the 1st of May, they started sending out emails to all their friends and to people saying that this is the wrong day. Normally what trade unions do on Labor Day is that, you know, they just have fun activities, enjoy themselves and this and that and so on and so forth.
But Mary, Mr. Pierre, it's the jazz season. we had this huge jazz event in Soufrière on the 1st of...
That's another thing, Laura.
Could you not imagine that they probably wanted to go to jazz?
Laura, that's another thing. Not everybody can afford to go to jazz, $80. Plus, our activity was from morning, and we had karaoke organized for the afternoon and so on and so forth. Because we still recognize that members need to have fun on Labor Day, right? But not only that,
Stop with drinks. I remember that.
We had all the drinks and everything else.
You were prepared.
We had free drinks, free
That's
food
what we
and
were
everything.
prepared to do.
And we were going to have the meeting in the morning, get it over with, and then move on, you know. But these people came with the intention of creating havoc, and they were saying it. They were cursing and swearing, and we had children at this activity because we also cater for children, right? We catered for 80 people at that meeting because we know it's Labor Day and so on and so forth, and the jazz and everything, right? So
how many people did it showed up?
We had about 50 people at maximum. We had about 50 people, including those 10 people.
At the peak of CSA's, the peak of your heyday, how many people would come out to a general meeting? An annual general meeting. Do you
An annual general people we would have about. That's why we catered for about 80 because of jazz.
You mean out of 3,000 plus members, only about 100
if it is show up? If it is negotiations you are reporting on, you would get about 500-600.
You get 500, 600.
But if it is just your AGM or meeting or something, if it is the medical plan, we have about 800 people on the medical plan. They turn out because that is something that is of interest to them. You understand? But generally, CSA members on AGM and there's jazz, we catered for 80 people.
Okay, so move past that. Let's start. We're in the meeting. The meeting has been convened. Somebody what was on the agenda for the meeting first off?
But I also want to say, before we move on to that the fact that we are having jazz on Labor Day is something that ought not to be happening. I can see jazz starting the weekend. Labor Day was Friday. Jazz can start Saturday, Sunday, go on and so on. But if people have respect for Labor Day, they will not put other activities on Labor Day. They will respect the fact that Labor Day is for trade unions to do their business, to do what they have to do, to have their fun and so on and so forth, and they ought not to be putting activities on Labor Day.
One can argue that you're having fun at jazz and you're off the work clock and you're not being, not the rat race, the constant hustle and bustle, and you're just relaxing and having a groovy time. And
if it is free jazz for workers because it's Labor Day, that's fine. But if it is your normal jazz, you pay your $80 and so on and so forth. No, it's not to happen.
So you're saying that the focus should be on workers, something to benefit workers, a free jazz event, but not a paid event, because
that's going to take away from Labor Day activities, from workers' activities.
I know that there are some people who are going to disagree with that, so we're just going to drop that for now. But I am more interested in what happened. What was on the agenda for Friday's meeting?
Well, we had the usual on the agenda because the AGM is really for us to report, for the executive to report to the members on the past year's activity, because you have an AGM every year. Now with our convention and so on, we have the biennial every 2 years where we have elections and everything, and in between you have an AGM. So you really come in together to report to the members, and you come in with your budgets and your work plan and everything else. So these were the things that we came there to report on.
And also the branches have to report
and
on. And we had some funds, new funds that we have developed. We wanted to, that's going to benefit the members significantly. And so we wanted to bring that to their attention at the meeting. So that was what the agenda really had.
Do you get full participation?
Report?
The auditor's report.
Do you get full participation of the branches at your AGM?
Well, that is another issue.
They didn't report. No, none of them reported.
What happened was, you must have heard about all this hoorah about the general council that we did not have. We haven't had a general council meeting because this is a revised constitution. It's a new constitution, right? And the members, the very same people have been complaining, we haven't had a general council meeting. We're supposed to have a general council meeting because the general council is the third highest decision-making body in the organization. So they're pushing for a general council. But this constitution requires that we set up branches, and the branch reps are the ones who would form the general council. we have not been able to form the branches, but
Why?
we were told that the branches has been formed. Okay, the branches have been formed, but up to a day like today. So we held the General Council meeting when we were informed that all branches were in place. We called them together and we said, okay, General Council meeting. That was in March?
Yeah, March.
Around March, I think. General Council meeting, March or April? March, I think. And lo and behold, we had our meeting, but towards the end of the meeting, when we had to take a decision, what they observed was that the people who were there representing the branches started saying that they were not elected, they were selected.
By whom?
Well, by whoever was putting the branches in place, by CSA staff.
Okay.
And
So, so you have no branches, and so you cannot call it. So that meeting, that supposed General Council meeting was
yes.
moot. It
was declared null and void because
of course.
some of the people who were there representing branches declared themselves that they were selected. They were called and asked if they wanted to serve and so on. And the Constitution says you have to be elected by the members of the branch.
Okay. So we have no General Council.
So there is no General Council right
because
now.
we have no branches.
That's right.
Great.
No branches are set up properly.
What happened? You're skirting the question. What happened on Friday? You came in. You have your agenda. First of all, you did not circulate an agenda. Is that right?
Yes, the agenda was circulated together with the notice, 21 days before the meeting.
21 days. So they knew what was coming on the agenda.
But what they were complaining about is that the reports were not circulated.
Why were the reports not circulated?
We never circulate the reports.
Never.
We do not circulate.
In all of the time that you've been a member of the CSA.
Actually, Mr. Dimac has been very adamant about not circulating the reports because he says that can fall into the wrong hands and it can go viral even before the meeting.
Okay, so
that has never been done.
So
the Constitution does not require it. I heard some people saying 7 days before the meeting. That is not
show me that. Can you show me where that is?
No, there's no 7 days.
It doesn't
it
make
does not
mention of
require that
anything
the reports have to be circulated 7 days before the meeting. I dare anyone to show me.
But Laura, that came up at the meeting, and what we did, because I was chairing the session.
You were chairing?
Yeah, I was chairing. And when it came up, a member raised a point of order that the reports are not there, and they had not had the privilege of looking for it, and how could they participate? So after in the discussion, I really decided that, look, this is probably true. Let us give the members some more time. And so I'm agreeing with the member, and we put it to a vote that we would suspend that part to another meeting. So all the reports that we were presenting, we'll discuss them, but any ratification of the reports would be done at a subsequent meeting. So that gave them the privilege to be able to go home and look at the documents until we call that other meeting. So that was one of the decisions that was made at that meeting.
Who's the member who brought this up?
I think Marcia no, that was Lilia Ogis.
Lilia Ogis. That name sounds
familiar. It was a good point. To be honest with you, it was a very good point. I mean, the member might just decide, well, look, I have not had enough time to look at it. So we agreed, and it was put to a vote and things. So
that was dealt with and everybody was in agreement.
That's correct. But we have to go to the beginning of the meeting as
Let's go to the beginning.
And I think that's where you want to go.
That's where I want to go, and I'm chomping at the bit. I want to know what happened, because I'm hearing that the police had to arrest somebody and take them down and refuse to enter.
But I was really taken aback, because it really started at the time, because there's an agenda press, the very first part of the agenda, and that had confusion. Normally, yes.
I mean, I know Jesus Christ walked the earth, and it was contention from birth right up until his death.
You were getting you were getting points of order that, look, somebody wants to say. I said, no, look, this is the agenda. The agenda says, press, let us pray. So I said, okay, I'm going to pray. Because I normally am the one that pray at these sessions. And a member said, no, I'm going to pray. So I said, okay, go ahead. And the member said, no, Mr. Pierre, go pray. So I began praying. And I'm hearing while I'm praying. I mean, I was so disturbed, I was even about to stop. You could hear some of the members, agitating and throwing little remarks.
And
some of them sat. Some of them
people.
sat. I mean, it was so disturbing.
People.
I couldn't even concentrate. I don't have any difficulty in praying, and that time I had a little difficulty because of the persons that were just jeering and things. So then after the press ended, we had to go into the anthem, the national anthem, and then they stood up. They stood up. They stood up.
Okay, good.
Oh, they
because
stood
I'm
up
saying,
for that
oh
one.
my gosh, please do not say that there was a problem.
Very, very
that
good.
you sang the second verse for the third verse.
No, that went very good. And then we had the pledge, you know, and then
pledge.
we had our solidarity song.
And that went well?
And that went, that
always
went
goes well
That
for
went
us anyway.
What is your solidarity song?
Solidarity forever.
All right, so that went well.
Yeah, that went well, and you know, I said, well, okay, the meeting is going to go very good, and things so. Then I said, well, look, the remarks, because I'm the acting president, so
you were but that's okay for you to be chairing and being.
Yes, the president normally the one that chaired the meeting.
But okay, just let's put a pin right there. So the president is usually the one who chairs the meeting.
Yes.
But in this case, the president is the acting.
Well, I'm
General
acting,
Secretary.
but I'm acting president.
Yeah, but the president is the acting general secretary.
Right. So I assume the position. Our constitution indicates that I assume that position.
So okay, so as acting president, that supersedes.
Right.
Whatever.
I can chair the meeting,
Okay.
and I've chaired
And
most of these
was that
meetings.
okay? There's no contention there?
Well, nothing at that point in time.
Okay, so no contention.
there
You're
was-
chairing the meeting.
That's correct.
Let's
and
move
I've
on.
given the president remarks, and a guy stood up and he says, a point of correction, you know, no, a point of information. So I said, well, look, I'm giving the remarks. Let us wait later. Then somebody whispered to him and says, a point of order. So he comes back again and said, a point of order, Mr. Pierre. And normally when you have a point of order, whoever is speaking has to stop, and the chair will ask the individual, what is your point of order? And the person would indicate what his point of order is.
So, but you're speaking, you're the chair, so you have to stop yourself and then ask.
Yeah, that is the procedure.
Okay.
The procedure is that when you have a point of order, you actually have to listen, or if somebody else is speaking, the person has to stop and then listen to the person.
Okay, so you listen to him.
So I was listening, I tell him, but no, look, I am making my remarks, you know, what is the point of order? So then he indicated the point of order is that he wants the persons at the head table to identify themselves.
I'm certainly sure you didn't say it so calmly. I heard that you were barking. Mr. Pierre, let's be real.
No, not that time.
Oh, you weren't barking yet?
Not
Okay,
that time.
all right,
No.
Okay.
So he was because he has a genuine case of point of order. But the point of order is to really object or identify the persons that are at the head table. Okay. So I told the member, no, look, we have an agenda. The agenda has been approved by all the members. It was adopted. There was a seconder, right? So I said, let's go. I'll just give the remarks. The gentleman continue and things so.
But what is the protocol?
The protocol is when when somebody gives a point of order, the chairman rules on the point of order, right? The chairman would say, well, okay, I accept your point of order. What is this? And the person says it, and the chairman agrees. So, for example, if you have a situation where somebody raises a point of order and says, you know something, when I look at the room, we don't have a quorum anymore, but we want to make decisions. So I say, oh, is that true? Okay, well, we cannot make decisions. I'm using it as an example. So you can raise a point of order when there's a breach of some regulations and things like that. So after the point of order, the person makes the point of order, everybody has to stop. Even the speaker, the person that was on the floor, has to stop. And what I said to the gentleman, explain what is this point of order. So when he explained, the procedure is that the chair will rule on the point of order. The chair will say, okay, I accept it or I don't accept it.
So what was your ruling?
Well, my ruling was that I am, because of what you say about just the introduction of the people, I am in the speech, I'm in my speech giving the remarks, president remarks, so I rule against him.
Okay, so you ruled against him.
Right. And normally when that happened, what the gentleman should have done is to appeal. And he could, as soon as he appeal and he gets a seconder, then the chairman now would explain it to the members, say, well, why that was his decision, and then the gentleman that had the point of order would then explain and give his position, and then it would put to a vote. That's what normally happens, right? But that did not happen in that case. So the gentleman kept on. I said, but look, 7 times I've warned the gentleman, and I told him that, look, he's disturbing the meeting because we just in remarks, let us go ahead with the remarks.
So, Mr.
And he
Pierre,
refused.
So, okay, so you're stuck at that point. What is the protocol for when the chair has refused the point of order?
Right. So
or ruled against it?
Right. Well, what happened was that I read the section of the standing order in Article 19. I read the section that deals with the chair has the final say, right? Right? The ruling of the chair must be respected. Sorry, that's what it says. The ruling of the chair must be respected.
Yeah,
I read that to the gentleman. He still did not listen.
Okay, so
then I said,
he's getting agitated, and
yes.
Is that the point? Is that the point where you're barking?
No, not yet.
You're not barking yet. Okay.
Not yet.
I want to really get to that point.
After 7 times, So then I read another section in the Constitution. I think it's section F in the Article 19 that indicates improper conduct and what should happen when a member exhibit improper conduct or insubordination or improper conduct. And I read it to the member, and I told the member, look, this is the situation. He can be sent out. We can have a ruling where he can have to leave the room, but when he leaves the room, if he wants, he can come back and apologize to the chair, and the chair would come.
Okay, so that's where
I read all of that for him,
and that's all enshrined in the Constitution.
It's right.
And you read all of that.
I read all of that for him, and I went even further, Laura. I went even further. I called the membership, and I told the membership, I've just read this to this gentleman. I am putting a resolution on the floor, indicating initiating this section, right? And the members voted for it.
All of
the members voted for it. So I told the member, look, we have just voted, right, that you leave the room because of your improper conduct, and that is where the thing started. That is where it started. He talked about if I don't understand what insubordination really is and things. So I told him, but no, it's 2 parts. The section has 2 parts. Insubordination or improper conduct, and what he was displaying there was improper conduct. And it's not me that I had ruled first, but the general membership took a vote that he has to leave the room, and the guy was adamant he's not leaving.
So when you say the general membership, that's the 10, huh?
Yes, the 10 voted too. They voted against.
Wait.
Because we put it to the vote. Yes.
The 10 voted against.
No, what happened when I put it to the vote, right? Endorsing for me to have him to leave the room. That was got a unanimous approval.
With the 10?
No, the 10 now, when I asked who against, the 10 would say
okay, all right,
against.
Okay, I get you. I thought you were saying, right.
Okay. Right. So that's what happened.
They voted that he not be sent out of the room.
Right, they were more than 10.
Balance,
they were more than 10.
Okay.
Yeah, they were a little more than 10.
But the balance, the vast majority said he had to go out. So
but he didn't move again, and that was where the problem started. And the guy was just agitating. And Lord, that's the first time I ever saw somebody behave like that. The guy is by a mic, and the guy is mimicking like a boxer. You see when a boxer getting ready to fight, they weaving from one leg to the next.
Maybe he was still in the mood of
the only thing he was missing is just the towel and the gloves. The guy was just weaving from once. And I said, but what is this guy doing? The members have just agreed for you to leave. That happened for over an hour and a half,
And that is all before you finished.
I was still in the remarks. And 2 hours went, and the guy stood there. 2 hours. So we decided, I said, but the meeting is going nowhere. We need to get the guy out of there. So we called the police. We called the police and things. So the police came. But all along that was happening, the guy did not know that there was a police guy in the crowd. And he was seeing all what was happening there. And he called for backup and things. So because he saw what was going on.
So Nitemwe. And
he was making remarks there about different people. Nobody going to take me out from there and all that kind of thing.
We're due for a break. When we come back, you will tell us why is it that it took 4 or 5 police officers to deal with one man. We're back. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. No, not from a boxing match, but we're here with our CSA acting general secretary and acting president, giving us their account of what took place on Friday, May Day. So we were saying,
first of all, Laura, when you come to such a meeting, you do not ask, and people who call themselves trade unionists, sometimes you wonder where they get that title or position from. Where did they learn to become a trade unionist? We call ourselves anything in this country, and you come to a meeting and you ask to suspend Section C of the standing orders. Section C is what gives the executive control of the meeting.
The chairperson.
The chairperson control of the meeting. Okay? It says each member when addressing the chair shall rise and be limited in speaking for 5 minutes on each subject. A member shall not speak, and so on and so forth.
They're limited to 5 minutes, but I heard that they were trying to suspend this. Like they were trying to give
They were trying to suspend that, right? So that they could speak freely. The minute you do that, you are inviting chaos. It means that it is clear what you came to the meeting to do, because
there was chaos because you said this guy spoke for 2 hours.
But when we tabled that motion, they put that motion to the floor to suspend that section of the standing orders. We allowed it, and it was defeated.
Again.
So they had to recognize that the standing orders are in effect and in place.
You cannot take that out from your constitution. That's what your constitution says.
People who call themselves trade unionists, they are asking for you to suspend a part of your standing orders so that people can create chaos and havoc. And that is exactly what happened, although the motion was defeated. So we went on with the meeting, and we tried to go on, but he wasn't moving. We had to wait. I called the police came. That is what the police is here for, to protect, to serve, to promote law and order.
Speaking of the police, the lines are open, St. Lucia, so feel free to give us a call to either agree or disagree with what you've heard today, or to share your views in any way. We have our first caller. Good night. Thank you for calling News Makerlive.
Hi, good evening, Laura.
Good evening.
Good evening to your two guests, Mary Isaac and Wilfred Pierre.
Yeah, good night, evening.
I will not address as General Secretary and as President, because in my opinion, they are not that at the CSA. Okay? Now I will just identify myself. I am one of the 4 persons who have requested the inspection of the CSA books. My name is Elisha Clark Malikan. Now this is my first time. I have not spoken to Miss Isaac nor Mr. Pierre since all this saga have started. Now I started watching the program, but I felt compelled to call because I'm hearing a lot of misinformation. First of all, this issue of trade union, we have persons who have been part of this trade union movement for over 15 years. And I am one of those who have served under many executives, right? Now when a member like me take on an issue, I don't expect my comrade sitting at the table there to look at it as being having a motive. First of all, let me clarify something. Brother Pierre just said there was an officer in the midst who called for backup. Miss Isaac just said she called the police. This is misinformation. Earlier when the program also started, a mention was made that there's precedent that other presidents have served as General Secretary. That is not correct in its entirety, right? Brother Dossery, Brother Raphael, held on the fort as General Secretary and performed some duties. And they receive a stipend at the end of the period, a stipend. That can be verified, okay? A stipend they receive. Okay? Now let's talk about the meeting on May Day. I made a statement to other members as well as the media when they came to ask my opinion. I would never support a meeting like that, an AGM. You see what happened at it, the heated debate and what. That is normally associated with our meetings. A lot of debate and whatnot. That is not an appropriate time. May Day, if you look at the history behind May Day, the internet is there available for everybody. This is to commemorate the struggles of our predecessors who fought to enjoy certain benefits that we enjoy, like the 8-hour day. You understand? Work day. There are a number of benefits. People bloodshed for those benefits, just like adult suffrage. When you have May Day, in Cuba recently they had some celebrations. It was a fete, to appreciate that day. Now look at what happened on the May Day. Now the gentleman stood up. I was not at the meeting. As I said, on principle I would not, and I'm normally at my meetings. On principle, the gentleman stood up on a point of order. That was a valid point of order. I don't understand if the head table, members have disagreements with the head table. And I don't even need to look at the constitution because I know it. I was one of those who was part of revisiting the amendments. Now, you know, the gentleman stood up on a point of order. What is this? People are from my tenure in the public service. People have always battle and shut up and keep quiet. You know, that sort of thing. Now, my understanding, I heard mention of suspension of the standing orders to allow. Given the climate of the CSC, that is the whole spirit in which they wanted to discuss this thing further. Now, you see all that's going on there. That can end. All Madam Miss Isaac have to do is call a general meeting of the entire membership and put this thing to an end. If members like myself who voted for you have an interest in you serving, we just want to iron out issues and all these things will be settled. There's all this Jimmy Flick camouflaging and all these things we're doing. That's not necessary. That is definitely not necessary. Let's finish with this thing. Thank you. Good night.
But Malika,
yes.
You addressed me. You said you don't recognize me as the
president.
acting president.
No, I will not.
But there's a letter from your lawyer that is copied to me on your behalf, and he refers to me as acting president.
You read the letter properly and look at the letter properly. Yeah?
I tell you, I have the letter right in front of me. It says Mr. Wilfred Pierre, acting president, and it's on behalf of yourself, John. I just wanted to raise that with you.
No, but let me tell you, be careful how you make mention of that letter, because if you realize that letter has not been made public at all, do not make reference to that letter because...
I'm not making reference. I'm referencing what you said.
But don't discuss the content of the letter because we have not discussed, if you realize whatever media releases, there's just mention of the letter. We have not discussed anything in the body of the letter. So don't bring up that if you don't want me to talk about that. Don't bring it up on the show there.
Okay.
But Malakan, you have brought up. Hold on, Mr. Malakan. You have brought up the books. You have brought up the issue of the letter in the media. But now Mr. Pierre is telling you that the letter refers to him as acting president. You are telling him don't bring up the letter.
Okay.
But you were the first to bring up the letter.
Don't you see somewhere in the letter?
But you were not at the meeting, Mr. Malakan. And you are talking about things that happened at the meeting. They were not right and they were not this. The gentleman did this, but you were not there.
You are correct. I have always made it known that I was not at the meeting. But
and you were saying that. And you were saying that. Yes, but he has already said those things, and I am responding to the things that you said. You also said that nobody has ever acted general secretary, but you went on to say that he did a stint. Somebody did a stint, and they got a stipend.
Held the fort.
So what is acting? When you are acting, what are you doing? Are you not holding the fort on somebody else's behalf?
No. You are receiving pay for that.
And Malakan,
you are not receiving a stipend. A stipend is different.
Malakan, they did not receive a stipend.
Isn't a stipend pay?
I was on the executive at that time, Malakan.
Okay. Thank you.
The guys did not receive a stipend. I was at that meeting when that decision was made.
And he received a salary.
Of course, they received part of Mr. Dimak's salary.
Okay, we'll iron out that later.
No, don't iron it out. No. Now it's iron out now.
But before you,
if you're not clear, do not come and make these statements.
No, it's not iron out clear. I am aware that they got a stipend.
You are aware they got a stipend?
Yes. I don't believe you, man. That can be verified too.
Malakan, I don't
Hold on. Mr. Pierre?
Laura?
Mr. Malakan, would you accept that they received pay?
They receive a stipend. Stipend. That's a different term. Stipend.
So how much they receive?
Okay, gentlemen, this is not the CSA meeting.
That's right, Laura.
This is not the CSA meeting. Mr. Pierre has just said that he is in a position to know that they receive money.
They receive money.
Or they receive pay.
Call it.
And that as far as concerned.
Laura, let me tell you, my functions in the service, I've been an auditor in the public service for a number of years.
And so you're saying that you
government
have
policy. Hold on, Laura. I've worked with government policies and the laws. You see, a stipend, there's a different definition. Stipend and salary is two different things.
So you're saying that he did not receive a salary, he received a stipend.
A stipend, that's right.
Mr. Pierre, you're saying that you were on the board, you know that he received the salary.
Yes, there was a...
Francis Raphael can be contacted at the Ministry of Commerce and spoken to about that. Dorsary, I'm pretty sure he'll be listening somewhere or the other. can be contacted to verify those particulars. I don't like to spread rumors. I'm not going to argue about it.
We will confirm.
I'm not going to argue about it.
We will confirm, Mr. Malakan.
If I'm wrong, I stand corrected.
Mr.
But my
Malakan,
information.
We will confirm and we will air that next week.
No problem.
On the next edition of News Makerlive. But we thank you so much for your call. It's been very enlightening. Keep watching the show.
Yes. Okay, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
But Laura, I think it may have been called a stipend, but it was part of the GS's salary.
But we will clarify that. We will qualify the term.
It's a stipend.
We will qualify the term, and then we will get back next week to our viewers. Thank you for calling. This is Newsmaker Live. Hello.
Good evening. This is Dorsey right there.
Right. Thank you, sir, for calling.
Yes.
Did you receive a stipend or did you receive pay?
No, I received a stipend.
You received the stipend.
I received a stipend which was a portion, a percentage
of Mr. Dimak's salary.
Of what the General Secretary received.
You received
Brother Pierre was on the executive at the time.
Hold on, Mr. Pierre. You received a percentage of Mr. Dimak's salary.
And when the decision was made, I had to excuse myself from the meeting of the executive. The decision was made, and then I was called back in and informed.
Okay, hold on. Are you guys receiving a percentage of, or not you? No. You.
Let me explain that. He received the percentage because he only did half of the time.
They shared it between two.
Hold on, Mr. Pierre.
They shared it between two people, so they each received a percentage.
So between the two, they received the full salary.
Well, I'm not sure exactly.
No, we didn't. We never received the full salary.
Combined, I'm talking about.
We received a percentage of the monies that would have been paid to the General Secretary. It never amounted. It didn't even amount to 75% of the salary.
It didn't amount to 75% of the salary.
No, it didn't amount to 75% of the salary.
You did not. Okay, let me try to qualify this. You're saying that
combined,
it did
the
not
money
amount
that
to
we
75%.
received did not amount to 75% of the salary, and I'm very sure of that.
When I was at the meeting agreed that the two gentlemen would do it half, kind of. That's what I can recall. That Mr. Dorsey will take half of the period, and Raphael would take the other half, and it would be the salary will be divided between them.
Equally.
That is my recollection.
Brother Pierre, you're not correct. The salary was not divided. Sister Clark, who was the treasurer at the time, can verify that. Brother Montrop was there. We had comrades like St. Pri and so forth. It was decided, and it was never decided that the salary be split in two. It was we didn't receive. I am sure of that. We didn't receive. The salary was not divided between the two of us.
But you will
and
say
it was
more
not a salary. It was a stipend.
But I mean, if it's amounting to 75% of the salary, based on what Mr. Malakan is saying, to my mind, that's more than a stipend, don't you think?
Well, I don't think it really matters. What is important is
but it matters.
What is important is that, Laura, people got paid. You understand?
Yes,
people got paid, and I am getting paid.
Okay.
But some people, that's rubbing them the wrong way because I am getting paid.
Okay. All right. So both of you got paid. Is there another comment that you'd like to make, Mr. Dossary, or
yes, there are comments that I would like to make. I've been following the issue relevant to CSA, and it's very sentimental to me more than anything else. It means a lot to me. But I think Brother Pierre made some comments there in his addresses tonight that I think he made some errors. Number one, when I sat in the office of General Secretary, I opened our council meeting and I opened the executive meeting, after which I made it known, I put it before the floor, before the membership, before the executive, that since I have to present the General Secretary's report, I would like to be excused, relieved of the office of President or Chairman of the meeting, so that I could go on with the duties of presenting the General Secretary's report. And then it was accepted. I think.
But Mr. Dorsey,
that error.
Hold on. Let's just deal with that. Is that enshrined in the Constitution, or that's just your preferred way of dealing?
Yes. If you elected as president, you have to chair. You open up the meeting and then you place it before. I think that was an error on the part of the Madam President.
I
think that was an error on the part of the president.
But that is your preferred way of doing it. It's not anything that.
No. It was an error. You have, if you elected as chairperson of a meeting, you present, you start the meeting, and then you can present your reason for not continuing as chairperson.
And that's presented in the Constitution.
It is in Robert's rules. It's in everything, because that is the practice. Number two, Brother Pierre, I think you made a fundamental error. And listen carefully. As chairperson of the meeting, you insisted that you were chairperson. You couldn't present a motion. Chairperson of a meeting does not present a motion. You request that a motion be presented and voted upon, but you yourself cannot present a motion.
Okay.
You made a fundamental error there.
Okay.
You made a fundamental error. Number three, I am very concerned, very concerned that a police officer was in the midst of a CSA meeting. That's a closed meeting. And if this police officer was not authorized by the state, by the Commissioner of Police, by the Minister of National Security to be present and observe the operations of the meeting, you have a problem there right away.
Okay, Brother
You have a major problem there right away.
Let me just clarify that. When the members started behaving like that, and after they took the decision that he should leave the meeting, we called the police. But they sent a plainclothes officer to the meeting to observe whether there is any need to intervene at the meeting. And that is what this officer was, not just an ordinary officer. He was sent there to observe, whether to assess.
Madam President.
But it is after we called him, after the gentleman started acting up and saying he's not.
So you're saying that this officer was not there throughout?
No.
He only came in after you
for that purpose, and he came to assess the situation to see if there was any need for the police force to intervene.
I would like, Brother Pierre, you made a fundamental error again, because you said all the time he didn't know there was a police officer in plain clothes in the meeting.
So he misspoke.
Not
speaking.
No. What I said, Mr. Dorsey, is that when we put the thing in context, man, when we called the police, because the guy was not moving, and that was something that happened for about 2 hours, and the members
No, Brother Pierre, you said that all the time the guy didn't realize there was a police officer in plain clothes. Wait.
Yes, but that's true.
Hold on, Brother Pierre.
But that's what I'm saying.
Hold on,
Mr. Pierre, let him finish.
If you are going to invite, if there was a police officer who came in to observe behaviors in the meeting, the chair had to immediately inform the meeting that a non-member of this meeting is in our presence. We do not allow any non-members, even when police officers come to observe the meeting. You remember in the past I did it? I informed the meeting that we have officers in our midst who have been sent by the state. I have done that in the past.
No, Mr. Dorsey, you're still getting it wrong. The police officer was not there to observe the meeting. He was called to remove the member who was refusing to leave the microphone. But at that point, when he was called to remove the member, they indicated that since it is a union meeting, first they do not know that they have to remove the member. They would need to find out first whether the member need to be removed. So they came there to analyze the situation, to determine whether they need to remove the member. But they were called after the member started misbehaving, and we wanted the member removed.
So, Mr. Dawson, you will appreciate that the officer, based on what we're hearing now, that the officer was not there while sensitive matters was being discussed, but rather came in when there was some sort of disturbance. Would you agree?
On the clarification,
Right.
after because
of course,
when Brother Pierre spoke,
we appreciate that. We appreciate that you actually caught that and brought that, and that's what the show. That's what the show is all about. To have that intercourse and to have persons call and clarify and to change things.
But Brother Doxy will never behave that way, you know.
Do you have another point? Because we want to take another call before.
All I wanted to, I need to clarify members on a point of order. On a point of order, the chairman decides whether or not, if he feels he is not sound enough, he requests the guidance from the floor. That's the only on the free occasions or the free decisions a chairman can make on a point of order. Either he considers, he agrees, or he rejects it, or he says, I place it before the floor for a decision.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Dorsey. Continue to watch the show.
But clearly, you see, if Mr. Dorsey was there, that would never have happened, right? And neither would Mr. Dorsey behave that way. I know the gentleman very, very good. I understand some of the things that he's saying, but the chaos that was there, I mean,
I guess you had to be in it to really feel.
Look at what all the time that is happening. The guys there, defying not to move. You had persons actually going over and taking food.
We have another call. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live. Good night.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good night.
As I said, problem, let me just make some start correction to this problem tonight.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Your sound is very muffled. So if you can maybe.
I'm saying to you. The important problem here tonight, I want to make a short contribution.
I didn't get that.
I'm making a very short contribution to the program. You understand me?
Something about the program. You're very muffled.
Yeah. I'm saying to you.
That's a guy from thing.
Out of the discussion with Mary Isaac and Mr. Pierre, there is truth and untruth in this meeting. Okay? The gentleman stood on the point of order to make a point clear, which are the
I'm sorry. I cannot. Can you hear what he's saying?
Yeah, I heard what he's saying.
Oh, okay.
But, remember, was it you, the person that jumped over the counter to take some of the drinks that was there?
Hello?
Oh, you. It's him.
We lost. So you're saying that you had situation where?
Yes.
Hello? Are you saying that there was a situation where
all the time the guy was defiant
after the meeting that you were supposed to have?
During the meeting that happened, the guy was actually staying there by the mic. Members decided to take things on their own.
Okay, we have another call. Good night. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live. Hello? Yes, good night. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
I'm having a lot of fun watching your meeting. It reminds me rather of a Manicoot set in the House of Chickens. I mean, seriously, Laura, I'm having quite a lot of fun watching the meeting and listening to the development.
But at least there is some sort of debate back and forth.
Yeah,
unlike what happened in the House. Nobody wanted to speak. So maybe we should invite the CSA to teach the parliamentarians how to debate. Do you think?
Possibly. Anyway, I still find it very interesting. I'm continuing to watch. Besides, good evening. You're a lady I have quite a lot of respect for.
Good evening.
And I do admire you.
Thank you very much.
But
we're running out of time.
But clearly the guy jumped. Two persons actually took things on their own. We had the door is locked, and here the meeting is still going on. We're just waiting for the guy to be removed. Members took it on their own and jumped over and took drinks and took food.
We have another call, and we're running out of time. So, whomever it is, please keep it as brief and concise as possible. Thank you for calling Newsmaker Live.
I do not like to be hurried up, but I will try my best.
It's 10 o'clock.
Good evening, Laura.
Good evening.
And Mr. Pierre and Mary.
Yeah, good night.
Good evening.
I am so happy I got through because, what is going on at the CSA? Nobody has said it, and I'm sure everybody is trying to stay away from the politics. But what is happening at the CSA is politics, pure politics. It has been said that the executive of the CSA comprises people who it has been said, I don't know if it's true, people who support the United Workers' Party. And it has been said that the people among the membership and whatever else you want to call them are all supporters of the Labour Party. So that is the Labour versus Flambeau thing that is going on in the CSA.
You really think
and
so?
You know, I know we're trying our best to, I mean, let me tell you what is going on there. The first caller, I thought he was going to call to defend what Mr. Pierre said, because Mr. Pierre was giving step by step what took place at the CSA on that day. I thought he would call to say, no, that's not what happened. First of all, he was not even at the meeting, but calling to say things that I find were irrelevant to what had been said prior. So what is going on there? I am sure the blind can see, those who cannot smell can smell. That is pure politics going on there. Let's see how far it will get. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But just quickly, we have just 2 minutes before we end. Is there politics in the CSA? This is going to be our last call. Just make it brief, please. Thank you for calling Makerlive.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Madam General Secretary and Mr. President.
Good night.
I must say that the persons who have called, I want to make it brief. We do not need that in the CSC. I would be honest and I would say that what we need right now is a general meeting. We need to come together, because I did not need to know these details by watching television, but be it as it may, Makerlive, wonderful program.
Thank you.
But we need to have a general meeting and put an end to this. I think that from the last workshop, CSA should have adopted videotaping, recording every meeting, every session you have, because in the event, anybody could see that this thing could have gone violent.
Yes.
But you need the proof, you need the evidence. So I think from now on, we get video sessions, do whatever needs to happen for us to make it happen. But CSA, everything, we're in the rough now and we want to see the clear. Let us have our general meeting and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. This has been our last caller. But my question is there politics in the CSA? We've been hearing that, and I'm glad the previous caller, the penultimate caller, brought it up. Because one of the other platform things that you said was that you want to remove politics. 1 minute, and then Mr. Pierre, closing remarks, 1 minute, because we're way over time.
Clearly, Laura, this is very, very political, and we know. If you look at the people who are leading the charge, they are all very well associated with the St. Lucia Labour Party. One of the people is the chairperson of the women's arm of the St. Lucia Labour Party in Rosalie. Okay, and you can see this thing spilling over into everything that we do at CSA. One of the problems with one of the people that called there, he's at the forefront of the person who's trying to push a legal line. This gentleman went on television and read a letter that was sent to us requesting that we open our books for inspection, and the Constitution required that we comply. And what we did was we did comply. We agreed to meet give them a certain date, but they wrote to the Labour Commissioner, to the Registrar of Trade Unions, and the Registrar now received this letter, but at the same time the Registrar's term of acting came to an end. So the Registrar, there was no Registrar. But during that period, he goes on and reads how he wrote to us requesting a date to come and inspect the books, and we have not responded. But he wrote to the registrar, and we responded to the registrar, giving the registrar a date. But there was no registrar to receive this letter and inform them that we have given a date. But there he was sending a lawyer's letter, giving us a deadline by which to show them the books, or else we are going to suffer the consequences. You understand? You wrote to the registrar. You have to follow through and find out from the registrar.
So you're putting this monkey to rest. You're saying that the books have been opened, so there's no contention.
There is a date that we submitted to the registrar that we are agreeing for them to come. It is the 25th of
this month
of May.
Okay,
but what we have realized is the 25th of May is with Monday.
Right, so that's a holiday.
Right.
Yes. Is that deliberate?
No.
You didn't realize?
People don't remember with Monday.
I will agree, because at work today we
had to check with our auditor is going to be there, and our accountant has to be there. We must make sure that these people are there.
But you are willing. The point is you are willing to open your books.
We have no choice, because the constitution requires that we open the books. Again, these same people who are asking to open the books, 2 of these people are the people who conducted the investigations into the former administration's behavior and so on in the Ministry of Finance. You understand? And nothing came out of all this hoopla. They were talking about how they did all this investigation and they have things on Guy Joseph and they have things on this one and that one.
But we will have to bring you back.
Yes.
We will have to bring you back. So the saga continues. We will be back with round 2 sometime in the near future. I can't tell you when yet, but we will be back because this is very interesting. Mr. P, I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted to close.
I am sorry, but your acting General Secretary has eaten up your time. But we will invite you back. We will bring you back. The saga continues, St. Lucia. Debate at its finest. Maybe we need to patent this and take it to the parliamentarians. Who knows? Maybe there's something there. But this is all the time we have for now. I have been your host, Laura Pierre. See you next time.